Hello fellow romance book lovers, welcome back to my channel. It's Kat. Thanks so much for joining me today. We are going to talk about Fallen Saint by Monica James. It's the second book in the series. There will be 3 books. The first one, Bad Saint, I did a video on about a month or so ago. I can link that in the comments below. And then we're going to talk about Fallen Saint today. That was Bad Saint. We're going to talk about Fallen Saint, and then Forever My Saint will be released in September, and I'm super excited because again, Fallen Saint left off on a cliffhanger like Bad Saint did, and I hate cliffhangers. Like, it hurts so good, you know? But thank goodness that we know that we get the next book, and we know that it will be wrapped up in the next book, and I'm so excited. So Fallen Saint picks up immediately where Bad Saint left off. Willow and Saint are on a boat, Aleksi's boat, which is a guy that is a terrible guy. He's like a warlord slash mobster from Russia that Saint works for. And also Saint, the way Saint knows Aleksi is because Saint's sister Zoe is one of his women. Terrible, kind of the way he treats women, and kind of just like sexual slavery and stuff like that. And so Zoe is it's supposedly his main woman. And if we go back and think about what we talked about with Bad Saint, we know that Aleksi won Willow in a card game, and Saint is sent to go pick her up, and she thinks she's being kidnapped and I guess she basically is, that her husband, who they were newlyweds, brokered her in a card game because he owed money to Aleksi, and so he said, "Here, take my wife." So it's not, very nefarious characters. Aleksi is, and Willow is his next victim, and Saint works for him and is kind of one of his henchmen, trying to get his sister out of the situation. It's a no-win situation all across the board, and it's something that I actually made notes about when I was preparing for the video today, that literally everywhere you turn, there's a bad person. They don't know who to trust. The people are horrible people, and it just gets worse and worse and worse in every way. And it's just a no-win situation for Willow, for Saint. And it kind of seems like Zoe is fine where she is, that Aleksi has completely manipulated her. It's just, it's crazy. So it takes place right away, from when Bad Saint left off. They're on a boat on their way to Russia. It hits the ground running. Poor Willow, I really, as a character, thought she was pretty amazing in that, she keeps getting handed these situations where she's so not equipped to handle. I mean, really, who is? But she's really not, and life has not prepared her for any kind of darkness like this that she's now involved in. But her one kind of beacon, and the one really unexpected person to come into her life, was Saint, and their connection is immediate, and we get that in Bad Saint, and it follows through in Fallen Saint as well. Super intense. Their connection is just, it's kind of immediate, and it was really kind of interesting to watch them never waver as far as that connection goes. As the book goes on, you know that Saint is trying to portray kind of a stiff upper lip, like he's this henchman that he's supposed to be in Aleksi's, group. And he doesn't let on, obviously, that he has feelings for Willow, because that's going to be an issue. And that she is supposed to be, take Zoe's place in his life. And Zoe is not having it. Zoe is crazy. But then you think like, well, she's been manipulated and she's been given drugs and she's all this, and you can't kind of, but then she has an ability to be like, on Willow's side and to kind of help or something. And she is not. She's spiteful and she is venomous. And really horrible. And so it's just crazy. It is action packed. It is off the charts with romance. I was almost going to say with romance, but with their love. And you watch their love story keep going in these, horrible circumstances and grow, and what they're trying to do for each other. And you see other parts of Aleksi's friends that he's involved in, and they are gross characters, and it just again like takes it down another level of like a really crappy situation. And you're afraid of Aleksi and what he's capable of. He talks about, and that he's got, all the politicians in Russia, all the police, anyone who's important answers to him. And that's why I said he's kind of like this warlord, crime boss, mobster guy. And drug deals going bad, and he's killing people, and he's he's just bad. But that being said, very interesting as the book goes on. And there's another character, Sarah, who is a sweet young woman that is indebted to Aleksi, and he kind of tells her to go help Willow get ready, and make sure that she's doing what she's supposed to be doing. I don't know, kind of like a companion for Willow. And a sweet young woman, and she brings up that Aleksi's a master manipulator, and she brings up that he's also like, he's the worst, but he's also the one that takes the pain away. And that she talks about that a little bit later, and it's something that Saint brings up to Willow in Bad Saint, I think it was, when he's talking about Aleksi and where she's going and who he's bringing her to. And he brings that up about him, and then Zoe brings it up. So it's this like theme that he's like the worst guy in the world, but he's also the one that takes care of them in a way. I mean, not really, but like, he has this life, and they're in it, and he manipulates them, and he expects things of them, and it's this dark, horrible world. But he also shelters them, gives them food, drugs, sex, whatever. So that was really kind of interesting. I was very surprised by that. And then, so you kind of wonder about him, I guess about halfway through the book, 3/4 of the way through the book. We get these little glimpses into him, and I don't know. I don't want to say my feeling changed about him, because it didn't, but when you read it, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And Willow goes through this struggle where she's like, is he as bad as he really is? And then you realize, oh my God, she's being manipulated like they all have been. Yeah, it's just kind of crazy. It was really good. It was really good. There's a very pivotal part, and it happens, I would say, about halfway-ish. And all I can say is shocked. And it has to do with a decision Aleksi has and tells Saint and Willow about. And there's a big shift. And let's just say that Saint isn't around anymore. And I could not believe that Saint did what he did. I was so upset. And then you get this part where it's like, you start to see these different things about Aleksi, and it's like, wait, am I being manipulated as the reader too? Because I'm reading it and I'm understanding what Willow is saying, and I'm understanding the situation, and I'm like second guessing myself, and I'm going, but no, he's a master manipulator. Like, I can't think any nice, soft, fluffy feelings about him. Why would I do that? He kidnapped her. He's got his Saint sister as a sexual slave. Like, he's a drug lord. Like, but then you're like, oh, but that was kind of nice, like what he did. And there's a couple scenes that she writes about an orphanage, and it's like, whoa, really, really good. really, really well done. There is some foreshadowing that happens, and like I just said, there's a part where I got really mad at Saint, and it has to do with the foreshadowing. And he says it to her, I believe, to Willow, I think twice. But he says, "I'll get you out of here." The whole time he wants to make sure that he can save Willow, because not only because he loves her, but he feels bad because he feels like he's the one that was sent to kidnap her, and he took her and he knew it was wrong, but he feels like he's in a no-win situation trying to protect his sister, doing whatever Aleksi bids him to do. And so he feels really bad, and he says to her, no matter what, you have to go. Like, when you get the chance, you have to go and never look back. And I was like, that's horrible. But Willow takes that and she's like, I know he's going to get me out of here. But then I'm thinking in my head, well, he's going to get you out of there, and then that's going to be it. And like, what then? It was a lot. And I recognized that foreshadowing, and I was like, uh-oh, like, stuff's going to go down, and I'm going to be sad. And what is going to happen? It was a lot. So Willow and Saint find these moments where they are able to be together, and it's really beautiful, and their love is growing, and like I said, it's super intense. In the chapters, Monica, the chapters give a date. Oh, not a date, a day. So it starts out with something that Saint has said most often, a blurb that where his head is at, because otherwise we don't really get him. It's only from Willow's perspective for the most part. But it'll say like chapter 2, and then it'll be the blurb, and then it'll be like day 17 or day 34. And when that, I realized that was happening, but it wasn't until I got to the later and parts of the book realizing that this whole thing doesn't happen over years. This whole part of their life is happening over like 6 weeks. So that being said, and it's this obviously super intense, stressful, mind-blowing situation to be kidnapped and have your husband sell you into sexual slavery. And by the way, she's a virgin. They hadn't even like consummated their wedding night yet when she gets kidnapped. So it's a lot. It's full on right away. And it really struck me that was such a short time had passed in the book, and how intense their connection is, and how they find these little moments when they're in the second book, when they're actually living at Aleksi's house and, settling into whatever life is going to be there. And by the way, Aleksi wants to he's in this I don't know, sex circle thing with friends. I don't know. And he's going to make a spectacle of taking her virginity. That's the type of individual he is. Creepy as heck. So these connections and these times that they have, Willow and Saint have, are really a lot. And, at one point, they know that they're each falling in love and more with each other. And at one point it was kind of really sweet, but also kind of, I don't know, it just shows you where her head was at. Willow says she's a love-struck Juliet, smitten with her blood-stained Romeo. These are the kind of things that Monica James puts in these books. It's just amazing. I love that. I loved that sentence. It described them perfectly. And I knew exactly what they were. And she was spot on. And it was absolutely perfect. On the flip side of Willow saying that, Saint is having a hard time. He doesn't think he deserves her, and he feels like he's, done horrible things in his life and blah, 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 right? You know where I'm going with that. But he wants her, and he, feels bettered by her, and that her love could make him be a better person, and he just wants out and away from this. And, she's fighting with him about it and saying, you are enough. You are a good person. This is a no-win situation. Like, don't, like, stay with me. Like, we can make it through this, and we'll get through this. And he's telling her, but when I give you the chance to go, you have to go and never look back. And, and all of that. And, he just can't imagine what she sees in him. And it was, one of those moments, like I just described about the Juliet and Romeo thing. She says that her demons dance with his, and that's how she can accept him, and that's how she loves him, because their demons dance together. And she didn't, she really, as a character, found herself in situations, as I've said a million times, that are like no-win situations. She's never been in a situation like this before. But she adapts and she changes and she is astute and she understands. She has to, think on her feet, and so does, Saint. So I thought that was really cool and a good way to describe it, because the book is dark, that their demons dance together. So like I said before, there's this point in the book about halfway or a little bit more through where you start questioning things. Things have happened. Things have change. There's a change that goes on. And at one point, Willow says to herself, like, my moral compass is screwed. It has no idea where north is anymore. I'm paraphrasing. But at that point, when she said that, I was like, girl, me too. Like, what is going on here? I was completely confused, like she was, had no idea who to trust. People are dropping like flies. People are leaving. People are horrible. And someone who she thought she could trust, then, she wasn't sure if she could. And it was just like, it just went ass over tea kettle. And you don't know what the hell's going on. Is he a nice guy? Does he have a heart? I mean, I'm talking about Aleksi. It was just totally upended, and I had no idea which way was up or down, and Willow felt the exact same way. I always like to find where the title fits into the book and how the title fits into the book, and if it gets used in the book. I'm always happy when I see that part. There's just something that I appreciate about the creative process of the title, the story, the cover, the colors that are used, stuff like that. So I found the part where Fallen Saint comes into play, and I'd like to read it to you, because Sarah actually says it to Willow. And Sarah, like I said, is that sweet younger woman that's kind of supposed to be her companion. I really liked her. She was a very likable character, and not a huge part, but very likable. And I thought this was perfect what she said. She says, Willow says, what have I become? I used to be a saint. She had a not an easy life before this, but she felt like she was a good girl. And then Sarah says, you're a fallen saint, but unlike a fallen angel, you were never given a choice to sin. Well, because she has to sin a lot. I mean, sin. She has to do bad stuff. She's been around bad things now. It's a bad situation. But I really liked how that, perfect title. And if you look at the cover of the book, it's Willow. The last few chapters of Fallen Saint, I was absolutely in tears. And, I know that you've heard me say that before if you've seen any of my other videos. And I think I'm not a crier in general. I can tear up. I can get emotional. So when a book actually makes the tears fall, that's a big deal to me. I mean, I might tear up at a good story. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't read romance for, not any of that. Of course I love all that. I want all the emotion. But to actually have tears come down my face that's a seal of approval for me. And the last few chapters of this book, I had tears coming down my face, because I couldn't believe what happened, and I was so sad. And I just kept waiting, and I was so confused because, like I said, it gets very confusing, and you don't know who to trust, and you don't know what's going on, and so good. But I was like, oh my gosh, oh my God, what the heck just happened? And I was so sad. The last few chapters are so emotional, and she just does that heart pulling so well. The fact that she can get, my tears streaming, that's like A++. Awesome. So I highly recommend you read this now second book. It's just, you won't be disappointed. It's really, really good. Let me know if you've read either of them in the comments below. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today and watching the video. I really appreciate it. I never talk about subscribing to the channel, but please do. I mean, of course, I want people to see my videos. I want to be able to talk about videos with fellow book lovers. So if you would subscribe and share the channel with anyone that you think might like it, find me on Facebook or Instagram. Come say hi. And thanks so much and have a great day. Thanks for stopping by.